So basically, an async method, if you create a function that is async, so you can pretty much keep the async keyword before any function that you create, even if it is an event listener on a JavaScript element, or it is a callback function, or it is an arrow function. So it doesn't matter. Okay, as long as it is an a function, a JavaScript function, you can keep this keyword async beside, right before the function keyword, or right before anything, right before the entire function statement. You can keep this async word keyword, and that will become. So I've explained the tough, the actual syntax, and now I'm giving you the easiest flavor that you can use the promise. So you can use it like this. So if you want some operation that you create, in a function that is with async keyword, and then you, if you call that function, you would see that returning a promise. So that will become, this function will actually return a promise with request and resolve parameters. The key takeaway of last session is to understand the fetch operation and understand the promise operation better, because that's where the async programming logic lies. So I just want you to understand it. So today's topic is TypeScript, guys. So what is TypeScript? So a while ago, if you remember, we were writing CSS, and all of a sudden, I've introduced something called SCSS, and we've installed a plugin. We write SCSS files, and whenever I started compiling that SCSS file, it was generating CSS, right? We learned about SCSS and SAS, right? So same thing with JavaScript also. There is a program called TypeScript. Let me go to the website. So TypeScript is a compiler, like SAS for CSS, TypeScript for JavaScript is a compiler. Now you get the idea that what you were about to learn, right? So if you want something, uh, if you want to run it on your browser, there is a playground area. Like if you want to write some SCSS somewhere online, and you can easily convert that SCSS to SCSS on online, and you can do it on your machine too. So I want you to understand this. Extensions are the ecosystem, the modules of the VS Code ecosystem. If you remember, the passionate people about, who are working with VS Code are creating these awesome extensions, and so none of them we are purchasing, right? Everything is for free. So that means VS Code has allowed external programmers to create extensions. First thing, VS Code has exposed the interface, or the programming interface, the API of the VS Code, Visual Studio Code, and these programmers. So if you see these programmers, binary file, so you know MRM Inc. So these are all the extensions. So these extensions or plugins, okay, are actually doing some operation on the VS Code, okay, because VS Code allowed them to access its core functionalities. So that is the reason it was able to. So there is an ecosystem, right? If you go to VS Code Visual Studio Code Marketplace, okay, so there's so many extensions that you can use. So the extensions that I've uploaded to this website are actually visible here, okay, and you are able to install the live server, and you are able to use the live server whenever I'm clicking with, you an HTML file. If you click that, live server method, it will open a live server, and pretty much everyone in this team are using that extension, right? See, some of you are using Prettier. Okay, so they are all created and hosted on this website so that you can access access it on this panel. Okay, they manage that from here. You, if you wanted to install something, you can click the install button and that will open up in your. So this is asking me to, do you want to install it on Visual Studio Code? If I say continue, it will install, but I don't want to do it now. I can cancel that operation. That is also fine. So basically this is an ecosystem. Okay, for Node also there is an ecosystem called npm. So if you install Node.js, in our previous sessions we have installed Node.js. Okay, we have installed Node.js from nodejs.org. We have installed this. As soon as we installed this, how did we verify it? We verified like this. We verified to go. We went to terminal and we said node hyphen version. So that was node hyphen v. That was giving this node command. Command was able to be recognized, and it was giving me the response that I requested. So we saw the how to activate the REPL. When I type node, it is going to give me the REPL. If I type some JavaScript, it was able to recognize JavaScript and it was able to run some JavaScript without issues. If there is an issue, it is reporting me that issue. See, it was created a JavaScript runtime. Okay, see, I'm able to access the variables. So Node.js is runtime environment for JavaScript on terminal instead of browser. So we talked about this and we discussed and we did do some homework on this too. So what we didn't look at is the, along with Node.js, you would see something called npm is also being installed on your machine. If you installed Node.js, there is another command called npm is also installed on your machine and the version is 855. So what is npm? If you do npm, if you Google search npm, that will take you to this website. So what is this website? So a while ago we talked about the extension for VS Code, because a lot of people are creating extensions for Visual Studio Code and they were uploading everything to here so that people like us can benefit out of these extensions. Because to spin up a live server, we are not doing anything, we just installing some extension. Okay, and we are just installing that extension and we are using that extension for free, and that extension creating a live server, and it is taking care about hearing on our changes and picking up that changes, and it is reloading the browser, right? It is doing lot of stuff for you, and that is for free, and that is being uploaded to this. And you could see thousands of other extensions that are helping the dev programmers via installing them and using them, right? You understood this ecosystem. You need to understand this ecosystem, very important. You know why extensions exist and how they work is important. I just want one acknowledgement on this thing. Do you understand this extension, or is this not something clear to you? Kranti, Karthik, Ravi, Jess,
Yeah, we are understanding.
Kumar. Yeah. So everything that makes your job easy, okay, everything that, so live server, creating live server is the same job for you, same job for me, same job for thousand other developers, lakhs of developers too. Okay. There is a need and people need it, and it is needed by entire world. So they created a package, which doing the application. We need Git. Okay, Git is actually kind of needed by everyone. So they created that plugin and they enabled it in here. Same way, we in Java, while using JavaScript, we might need thousands of line of code that needed by almost everyone. Okay, almost everyone needs certain things. Okay, if you remember, so just a second. So npm is also the same for Node.js. Npm is kind of a marketplace for Node.js. So if you search something, okay, search something like TypeScript. See, I'm getting a TypeScript. So you can so TypeScript is a compiler. Okay, like extension you have installed for SAS, you can install that TypeScript extension for JavaScript, you know like this, and then you can watch your TypeScript and convert that to JavaScript. So let me do that operation. So npm is a command that was installed along with. So I'm able to see a lot of commands like. So what npm does is, let me annotate something for you. Okay, what npm does is, there is a marketplace for npm. npm, what is npm stands for? Node package manager. Node package manager. So like for VS Code, these are all the packages, and you're able to manage it from this window. Like you can add one, you can delete one, you can do it. So for the Node also, there are hundreds, maybe a million packages available out there. you know Pretty much every problem that you face in the world of creating web is actually solved by someone and created by. So let us say you are trying to remove duplicates from an array, and you are about to write some logic. You don't have to do that. Okay, a package in npm module might have already did that. So you can simply search that query like remove duplicate from array, and you would probably find an npm package. You import that package and you use it in your code. So it is that simple. You don't have to write a single line of code for that particular operation. So that kind of a module is there. So if you, in this case, we are trying to use TypeScript. TypeScript has been created as a package in npm website, Node Package Manager. You need to. So here I am, my client. Okay, my laptop, and this laptop needs this package to be downloaded to the local. So what I can do, I can open a terminal. The npm is also installed in my machine along with Node.js. So I hope you're all paying attention and I'm not confusing. So this is my machine. This is the npm website. I've installed Node. So along with the Node, the npm tooling, npm tooling with npm keyword has been created on my machine. So I can say this npm package to install something on my machine. Install something on my machine. And uninstall something on my uninstall something on my machine. Purge something. I can purge something. I can reinstall something. So I can pretty much do anything, that any operation that will get data to my system and delete that data on my machine, and re and with npm you can also create a package and push it to the website, and you can manage that package going on, like you can update that package, send updates. So it's like that. With the help of npm you can get a package, install on your machine, and use that package for yourself, or you can create a package and you can send it to the npm website for the others to use. So it's both the ways you can do that. Okay, so I hope this is clear. So npm tooling job is to get a package from server, install on your machine. Okay, so there are two ways that you can install a package: local and global. Local in the sense only for the project. So if you are working for a project, if you install it locally, it will only be recorded, the package will only be installed for that project itself. So if you install it globally, you don't have to install it again. So it will be there for, you know all the projects to use. So it will be installed on your machine. If you're referring that package somewhere, it will automatically get imported, and you'll be able to use whenever you want and wherever you want. So basically you're installing in one folder or in your machine, and so install in one folder, use it in that particular folder is local. Install it on the machine and you use it wherever you want in the machine is another type. So you can install both the scopes, local and global. So not, you can install locally to a folder or a project. You can install globally and use it across your machine. So that's the fundamentals of npm. So I'm just moving away from the annotations. Any questions so far? So when I ask any question, I expect that you have understood it and no questions. Any questions? If you don't want to talk, if you don't want to unmute yourself, type it in the chat. I have the chat window open somewhere in the other machine, so I am looking at it. So post it. Any questions? So okay. So now the package that I'm actually willing to try is npm TypeScript. So this is the syntax. In your terminal, you will say npm install -g. That means globally installing and TypeScript. So copy, go to the terminal, npm, copy, paste that command. So npm -g TypeScript. When I did that, so it is asking me permission to install because it is trying to install in my deep folders, like in the system folders or something. So it is lacking some permission. So I would say, if you're using mac, type in sudo. If you are not using mac, that should work, but if you are using mac, it will ask you to give permission. So I've given that permission. So I remember a while ago I have asked you all to look at the bash commands. So I'm expecting that you already know about bash commands like sudo and other things. If you don't, go ahead and learn the basics. It is pretty much, I mean, you can still work with these packages even if you don't know about anything about bash. But if you know about bash, it is going to be lot easier for you. Okay, I've installed a package and it says there is an npm update available for you. So I can actually do this, and so npm itself needs to be updated. So this is how the packages will get installed. So if you see the small loading version of loading bar coming up, and it is actually pulling it up from uh, you know website, and it is storing me in the in this folder. Local lib node module is the location where it is saving all these files that are being downloaded from internet. Now, how do I use individual packages that I download? Okay, how do I use it? So there are two ways you can use. Okay, you can install via a command. Okay, each of the packages are supposed to have a keyword. So in the case of TypeScript, so now you have installed the TypeScript, you can type this command tsc. Okay, if you type command tsc, you type tsc, this command is now recognizing. And if you wanted to learn more about the TypeScript package, so this is a website wherein it is giving you the package being downloaded. Okay, there's no, remember, node package manager is only about s- storing a package on internet, and in your local tooling it will pull it from the website, npm website. All the extensions of all the modules for all the packages per node will be hosted on npm, none other than anything. So if you want some package out there from internet for node, you will come to npm dot npmjs.com. And then how to use TypeScript, you can learn it from the TypeScript. Okay, so I would suggest you to go to, yeah, this website. Okay, so if you come to TypeScript, click on docs, and I would suggest, if you are learning some programming, I would suggest that you all run through the project documentation first, because that's the best place that you can run. So as I said, we know about this command. Okay, we just executed it, because I could have just said execute this command and it will install TypeScript on your machine. But because I just wanted that you need to understand what is npm and what it is doing, what is npm website and everything, so you know the mechanics of npm now. What is that mechanism? Along with Node.js, you will see the npm tooling is been installed to your local machine, so that the npm command is recognizable in your terminal. First thing. Second, npm is a node package manager. All the packages are being saved in Node.js, npm.js, I guess npmjs.com. Yes, npmjs.com. And this tooling is actually going to pick, install a package from that website and uninstall a package from your local. So you can do install and uninstall and purge or many other operations around the packages. And also it can install a package in local or a global case. You can install it in a folder and you can use it in the folder itself, or you can install globally on your machine and you can use it in the globally anywhere on the machine, the same command. Okay, so that's what about it. So if you install, the tsc command will be activated. Okay. Okay, anyone wants to ask me why TypeScript? Why do you think TypeScript? Why do you think we need to learn TypeScript? Let's not learn TypeScript. Let's try to understand why do we need it. Why did we need it SCSS? Okay, you answer SCSS question, I'll answer the TypeScript question.
For
To
better organization.
Better organization, yes.
For
Kranti?
SCSS.
Yeah. Go on, guys. I add your all of your thoughts.
make it a nested group element, so we can edit as soon as possible and locate the issue of code which makes a error. So
Yeah.
it brings a lot of trouble of finding and correcting code.
Right. Yes. Anyone want to add? Shravan, Kumar.
Like making CSS into like a programming language, using functions and storing colors
Absolutely.
of names and variables.
Absolutely. Yes. Variables. It actually applied some flavors kind of from programming world. CSS was not actually logical, so much logical, and they applied some logic. Yes, yes, you're all are right. All are wonderful answers. Okay, there was a need. There was a need. So CSS was not evolving in the browser, and there was a need for programmers to be more productive. Okay, so there are some shortcomings for CSS. As you know, you cannot create variables in CSS. You cannot write some logics like, for each or something like that. Say CSS was giving you an opportunity to write less code and generate a lot of CSS. So many things are like the same way JavaScript has also some problems. Let us look at the problem first. So because you need to understand the problem statement, and then you need to understand, then you can understand what is the benefit that you are getting out of TypeScript. So learning TypeScript is a 5 minute job, guys. I wouldn't say not much. So learning JavaScript is pretty basic, but learning TypeScript is pretty basic. As I said, this 5 minute tutorial is enough for you. I might close it in 5 minutes. Okay, that's enough. Basically, it's enough. There are so many things, but to start with, that is enough. And you can, I keep on using some of the things, and you can keep on learning it. So we have another 8 weeks to go. Entire next 8 weeks we are going to using TypeScript. Whenever you see something that I'm using from TypeScript, you can learn about it. So you don't need to learn everything on the day one. Okay, this is enough. But what you need to learn is, where I focus a lot of my training is, why do you need it? So the reason for that existence. So if you ask someone that why do we need TypeScript, you should be able to answer. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to give you. Okay, now let me create an index.js, and let me create an app.js. Okay, so let me link that app.js. Did I link it properly? Probably I've linked it properly. Yeah, now let me create an input. Type text, placeholder, enter a number. So I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just creating same old. Okay, button. So add. So my goal is to add these two numbers that are entered there. Okay, ID. Okay, I've created my so I just want to delete this because I don't want to confuse. So so now we have only these two files. Why do we have all the groups there? Okay, let me move it bottom and top. Now we see the HTML here, we see the JavaScript here. Now where number num1 lm is equals to document dot get element by ID. What was the ID? First element is from num1, num2 element, and from num2. Okay, our button is equals to also the same thing. So that is add. So now I have three elements that I've actually I'll be accessing. So I'm just saying button dot on click. I'm just planning to is equals to function. Okay, that's what function sum num1 comma num2. I'm calling sum and sending value. So is it a valid JavaScript, guys? Like, do you think it will execute? Are there any problems with it? Are there any problems with it? So to know the problem that is in this file, okay, what do you do? Let's say it is you know you are unable to comprehend that right now.
Your on click isn't
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So we're not sure. We're not sure that it will run in browser. Okay. We're not completely sure if it is. So what do? We do run it in the browser. Okay. And we see that happening. Okay. That is definitely doing something. Not the right kind of operation, but that is definitely doing something. So there are no issues. So in JavaScript, the first problem of JavaScript is this. You'll see the errors in the compilation time, not, I mean, in the execution time, not at the time of compiling. So there's no way that you can, so in other programming languages like Java or something, if you're trying to bundle it up or if you're trying to give it, pack it and send it to the upload, okay. So you see, most of the time you see the issues, the potential issues being reported. Okay. So if you see a Java console, people who are already working on Java, if you see a Java console, you will see lot of errors, compilation errors, because it is warning the developer that in future with this code, you're going to face some issue. But in the JavaScript example, in the JavaScript case, you will see your errors in this console only and this here only. Okay, that is a kind of a big challenge, because to be able to you know so if say you have developed a big application that has maybe 100 features, okay, and you deployed it to prod, and next time you added some feature and you wanted to push it to the prod, okay, at that point of time, if if someone asks that will this code work without an error in browser or in the production, if you push the QS environment, like in the developer's machine, you added some feature, if someone asks you if this will this work the same as the product that you deployed as production, you wouldn't have a simple answer. You would say, I will have to run that entirely and look at the console log. If there are no issues, then only I'm going to push this to production. Is my statement correct? Right?
No.
Okay. Why do you think so, Jess?
Well,
My
so
my question is this. Today, I have developed an application with 3 features and pushed it to production, and users are using.
mhm.
Next time, I've added 5th feature to that, couple of feature to that application. I said, I'm ready with my features. I want to deploy it to production. The client says that, please make sure there are no issues. Then the developer should come to this website and access through all the website, all the issues, all the features. He should perform all the operation and see no errors here, and then only push. That's the thing that he will do. So that I am saying, that is my proposal. Okay. So what do you, I mean, what could be your thought process?
Well, yeah, right. You would want to make sure that it's working locally before you pushed it.
Yeah, yeah, there is no easy way to do it, right? So as I mean, if you are using plain JavaScript and developing things with plain JavaScript, there's no easy way of saying that, okay, this is good, I've written a good program and this will run for sure or something, right? So that assurance is not coming from anywhere except the console. Okay, you
Mm.
can only be able to see, we can be sure, we should go through all the features. We should see in there are no logs, error logs in the console, then we can be sure that. So basically the problem with JavaScript is the errors are only being reported in the compilation, execution time. Okay, if there is a variable that I have created undefined, like uh, you know so let's say I'm logging something that is not existing in the non-existent variable. Okay, so there is, when I'm saving it, there is no error reporting to me. Okay, for a programmer this is completely fine. This view is not giving me any error, like you're trying to, for JavaScript, if you try to access some variable that is not present on the context, it is an error. But here I intentionally made an error. I put a console log and I did not, I removed. So let's say that this was existing before, it was existing. Okay, in some refactoring I removed this variable and I forgot to remove that, I accessed it somewhere, and I'm able to see that error in the, whenever I'm trying to access that method. This is not safe to use. Okay, because when you see this function, everything is good. Okay, this is my feature, everything is working fine, and okay, I'm confident, I want to push it to production. Once it is in production and user is accessing it, this is what I'm getting. So the question that developer might ask is, hey JavaScript, is it really hard for you to do the same thing in local? And whenever I'm saving it, can't you tell me that this is a non-existent variable set, so that I would have removed this and I would have avoided a catastrophe. Okay, maybe because this website is going to be accessed by millions of people, and by the time you realize, that might have costed them billions of dollars. So if you remember, Facebook was down for 2 minutes, 2 straight minutes, and you have saw them losing $7 billion in the market, share market.
Jeez.
Yeah, and the mistake was pretty simple. The VPC cloud configuration was done improperly. Okay, they still haven't recovered from that loss. So it was a simple one-line error that resulted in billions of dollars of loss. So this is not something. So while I'm saving it, while I'm looking at, everything is looking fine for me. There's no problem. But and even if I'm looking at application is also no problem. There is nothing being reported. But when I try to access that one particular method, then this is giving me an error. So can we get that at the time of saving this file? That would have avoided the catastrophe. Yes, you can do that with TypeScript. Number one. Okay, you can do a compilation, because so if you write, so what TypeScript says is, you write things in TypeScript, buddy. Okay, your entire JavaScript, like you can write your CSS in SCSS. You remember, you don't have to write SCSS syntax all the time. You can write CSS also, and that will be converted to CSS again. No problem. Same case with TypeScript. See, TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. That's the bookish definition. That's the definition that's out there in the market. TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript, and you have to write TypeScript and compile it back to JavaScript. But in the time of compilation, JavaScript is going to detect, the TypeScript is going to detect the errors like this. to avoid such kind of catastrophes, or give you to give the developers certain confidence that there are no syntactical errors in your code. First thing, if you made a syntactical error, TypeScript is going to report. Okay, that means if you used a variable that is not existing in local or global scope, TypeScript is going to say that, hey, there is a variable that you accessed, but it was not decided or defined, or not exists in your context. So then you can go ahead and delete that particular line. So TypeScript is going to, so all TypeScript asks you is to write it in a TypeScript file and convert it to JavaScript. It's a fair ask because it wants to understand its own way, and it is not restricting you to learn something new, because if you know ES6, that's pretty much same. So it will be same as mostly, okay, 85% it will be same. Only 15% you have to learn some tricks and techniques, like you learned it from SCSS, nothing fancy. And TypeScript is far easy than SCSS. So you don't see anything that is not familiar for you, because it is basically like JavaScript, but it is simply a superset of JavaScript with some features around it. Okay, first usage. Second problem with JavaScript is this. I'm assuming that this is a number, and when I add them, it is giving me a concatenation. So JavaScript has this thing called dynamic typing. So what is dynamic typing? I've already explained in the previous classes, but now I'm explaining it. Okay, dynamic typing is something, the type of the variable becomes the value, the type of the value. So let's say if you're assigning a string to it, the type of that particular variable will become a string. If you're putting a number, the variable type will become number. So in the runtime, whatever the value that you assign, that will be the type of that variable. So that's the problem. And that was JavaScript best feature and worst feature as well. Okay. So JavaScript is what it is today because of that dynamic typing. And JavaScript problems, the problems that JavaScript exists in JavaScript is also by this same thing. So it is good and bad both ways. So dynamic typing, the type is, being picked up from the value. The type of the primitive value will become the variable value. So if you assign a string, the value will become string. If you put a number, the value will become number. So there's no control it. But in this case, why it is a problem? In this case, you are trying to add two numbers, but if there are two strings, it is going to perform a concatenation operation. So that is another problem, because there is no tightly typing the elements, and this is going to give you headaches in your runtime. Because if you build a calculator application, okay, let us assume that this is a big calculator and most of the scientists are using, and you develop that website, and at some time JavaScript ignores some of the syntax and concatenates the strings instead of calculating it, it will be a disaster, right? So you wouldn't have the face to say that this is an absolute way of doing it. So this is the correct way, and you wouldn't say that, because JavaScript is, you don't know how JavaScript going to interpret and how it is going to send the values. So even if you say you can put some plus there, is it so? Okay, so I have to convert that to number. Yeah, now I'm getting the value as, and there is a chance that I can send a string. What I'm getting, this is not a number. So the typing typecasting things. Now I can send a string here too, and there is no warning for me. There's nothing. Same like non-existent variable, same here. There's nothing. So basically, if you create a, sorry, what is the problem with this? Okay, fine. App.ts. So let me create app.ts and copy all this into my ts file. So first step, write everything, every JavaScript in, all the JavaScript in TypeScript. I just copy it. Now I didn't do anything. I've just copied something to JavaScript, and I don't want this JavaScript file right away. Okay. Now what I did, I just created app.ts instead of app.js. I'm just removing it. I just removed my app.js. Why do you think that I've removed app.js? A quick
Yeah.
answer.
It overlaps.
Why overlaps?
Maybe app.ts will add virtual in app.js
Why did we deleted CSS when we were using a CSS?
because SCSS will add CSS daemon file.
A CSS will compile back to CSS. So you don't have to have a CSS file. Same case here. TypeScript is going to convert that TypeScript into JavaScript and create a file for you there. So you don't have to have a JavaScript file. Okay, no confusion. In the place of JavaScript, I'm using TypeScript. And I can compile this times TypeScript same way I compiled SCSS. Now you look at this. This is giving me some error. So let me repeat the same thing. I'm writing in TypeScript. I'm I'm non-existent variable. See, if I'm using TypeScript, see, cannot find non-EV. A property value does not exist on type of HTML element. So it is started giving me possible errors. Okay, the errors that, and if you hover it, it is showing me the parameter num1 implicit has any type, but better type may be inferred from the usage. See, it is started giving me suggestions to better make my code better. So what is the first problem that it is giving me? A property value does not exist on type of HTML element. So you are trying to access an HTML element. Dot value is not a variable, not a value that exists in all the HTML elements, right? Dot value, where dot value exists, dot value will only be there in HTML input elements, right? Only the input elements, form elements will have the value, the property called value there. But if I'm getting, so it is detecting that. So TypeScript is detecting that this is a HTML element. See, and it says HTML element does not have a value property all the time, but HTML input elements. Okay, so first problem is solved because it is giving me the error straight away in my code, and it is not allowing me to make some common mistakes. Problem statement number one got addressed. Second, typing, because so here it is already be saying that parameter num1 implicit has any type. That means the value can be anything. So you haven't typed it. So it is suggesting me better type it, maybe inferred from the usage. So whatever that you're using it here, you just type it here. How do I do it? So now, first problem, I'm accessing something that does not exist. So I'm looking at my code. and making all the changes. I'm making on all the needed changes. Now, second thing is, second biggest offer of TypeScript is to tightly type the variables that we use. So now this is being treated as HTML element, but this is actually HTML input element. See, now there is no error here because I'm telling the TypeScript to treat it as HTML input element. Okay. Now to avoid this problem. So if I don't put it like this, okay. And how do you compile this TypeScript? So go to your console on the same folder, because we used to do the same thing, right? Go to open the terminal. The terminal will actually go to, this is where my file is. So that is what I opened, VK TypeScript. So that is where my terminal is. Now, if I say tse app.ts, see, I'm trying to convert the app.ts to JavaScript. Same way I did with SCSS. I convert SCSS file to JavaScript. This time it is giving me all the errors that are out there in the code. Now, I cannot work with, so it still generate JavaScript. It does not block from creating JavaScript file. It will still generate JavaScript, but it will put the corrections. You can stop, you can, we can create a configuration for TypeScript to block the compilation, but by default, it will continue to convert it to app.js and create app.js, but put the errors in the console. It says that the errors that you see in this file are being logged here. So now if I look at this compiler error, so if I'm actually pushing it to production before I'm sending it to production, now I can see what are my possible errors. So by looking at this, okay, now I'm sure, okay, I added a feature 4.5. If I fix these issues, I probably will not have any code errors in my code. Okay, so I'm going to fix one, save it, run it again. I'm still be able to see these two errors. One error for this and one error for that. To avoid that error, I need to say this is not a HTML element, but treat it as HTML. This is an input error in input element. Okay, you should explicitly tell the TypeScript that it is a HTML input element. Now there are no console logs, and it is created, no logs created. Now if I run it, no warnings, but it has one more suggestion. It is asking me to, so you can say like this. So because I am actually adding these two numbers, I'm expecting, you can explicitly expect a parameter to come in a certain format. Okay. Now if you see num1, I'm expecting it as a number. Num2, I'm expecting it as a num2. This is how you can configure. Beside a variable, put a colon and define the type. Okay. No capital letters, small letters, number. As soon as I said that, this is saying me node num1 element dot value is always you're getting it as string, but the place you're sending it is number, expecting number. See, you can type your functions like this and it will give you the possible, and you can convert it to a number here and the error is gone. So this is, if you put a plus beside a string, that will become a number. So that will treat as number. If not, okay, if TypeScript not exists, to avoid this problem, what you should have done? You should have done this. Okay. If TypeScript was not there, you should have done that. This. Okay. Type of, to avoid this problem, equal to number And I'm sure you did this. I'm sure you did this kind of operation. Then you call else, you throw an error. You remember? This is what you should have done. Okay. You should expect it as a number. You should expect this as a number, and then you should do some operation. If this none of these are numbers, you will throw an error. Okay. This was your support. This is something you are supposed to do to ensure that this particular function will always receive numbers. You guys got to here? Like any questions till here? But with Java, with TypeScript, you don't have to do everything, all this. Okay. You can only do, you can convert it to a number, and you can expect that, same value in here in your function. You can just say, I want only numbers, and it will give you error here in the compilation time. And that is not going to be, if you try to send a string type in your code, it will warn you, and not even so. It is trying to detect everything in the development stage than the runtime stage. So in the previous case where we were writing that if condition, we are trying to catch it in the compilation. So if you remember, with this code in place, we are trying to get it in. We are trying to get it in a compilation time. Okay, whenever the button is clicked, then we are checking. But in TypeScript case, we are checking in the code writing stage itself. See, we're simply solving the problem, and TypeScript is telling me all the problems in my code at the time of development, not at the time of compilation code. Any questions so far? I would like to take a pause here.
So you can't put a plus before in your function sum. You couldn't just write sum plus num1, comma plus num2.
So the plus, so basically plus some variable is like saying that treat this as a number irrespective of what are the value that is inside. So it
And
is
then for
yeah, you can do it like this also. You can say parse int.
but on your bottom function sum, when you have number num1 colon number,
Yeah.
you can't put just a plus num1 comma plus
No.
num2.
So here
No.
we are converting the value. We are
Okay.
converting the value. While I'm sending the value, I'm saying this might come as a string. So make sure, because even if I enter a number here, since this is an input, that might give you a number, string only. This value might reach you as a string only. So you convert it to a number. That's what I'm saying here. Here, what I'm saying. So you might receive a parameter called parameter for num1 and treat it as number1. Here I'm saying convert the value to number. Here I'm saying you will receive the value as number. So this is kind of an instruction. You only accept something as a number. So you only accept something, anything that comes to this port in the number only. Any number that comes, treat it as number. You allow only numbers. That's what we are saying here. So any value, you put a colon and type that, assign the type, and it will become the type. Good question.
Okay.
Good question.
Ganesh,
Yeah, Ravi.
Now in SCSS, where it will be converted to CSS, and it will be the regular CSS. Here the app.js, how the code will be changed.
Yes, Ratnakar. It will change. Um, it is Ratnakar, right?
Ravitej,
Ravi.
my brother is Ratnagar.
No, no. We both voices are same.
No, it's me, Ravitej only.
Ravi. Okay.
I have a
You
cold
both
and
sound the same. I met your brother in my office. You
okay, yeah.
both sound the same. I was kind of thinking that your Ratna is speaking. That's good. Sorry. Back to your question, Ravi.
Yeah. I want to know how the code in app.js file, this TS file is how the code.
Yes. Let me compile it again. And JavaScript is JavaScript. See, uh, till this point of time, what did I say? I said it will give you, sorry, what was there? Duplicate function. Why it is a duplicate function? Do I have? Okay, I opened the JavaScript. See the magic. I opened a JavaScript file and it says there is another file, another method called sum in some other file. So here is a sum. So it is saying that there is another sum, but that is not a case, right? So we don't have another sum. So it is checking the entire project and saying there is another method too called sum. So that's not the case, right? So yeah, if you look at JavaScript will be pretty same. Huh? And there's no change for things like this. Okay, so you can. So there are different. If you remember, there are different versions of JavaScript: ES2, ES3, ES1, ES4, ES5, ES6. So ES5, ES6 flavors are kind of same for JavaScript, but if you compile it back to, if you want to compile a JavaScript that is for ancient web browsers, it is going to compile that too. Okay, so if I, oh my god, if I put an async before the function, if I TypeScript it, see, see, before this method, okay, if I convert something to JavaScript, it was simply the same thing but with few additions. Okay, JavaScript do not have all the things that nothing from this syntax has moved to JavaScript. But as I said, we use this typing to detect all the errors, possible errors in the development stage. Everything is to help you avoid pitfalls from the development, in the development, not in JavaScript. If you remember, I was always saying that this will enable you to see the errors, possible errors in the development. This is for you to see and identify errors, in your TypeScript file, and do not make that error, and it will take care about converting it to. So if this syntax, if this TypeScript syntax does not have any special conversion logic, it will simply create the same thing. So there is no special about it. Okay, and it is created the same thing. But the moment you used some advanced features like this, okay, if you use something like this and then you convert it to TypeScript, convert the TypeScript to JavaScript, now you see. So this is making sure that, see, it is adding so much code. Now this function is not at all same. JavaScript is not at all same. So the magic that TypeScript supposed to do, it will do only in respective cases. So it is generating a, some part of your TypeScript is still valid JavaScript. So it is only copying it. The moment you said treat this as a async function, it is treating it as async function. Okay, it is creating a generator function. It has created a promise. So this code now will run in any browser from the inception of web. So you can confidently run this JavaScript in any version of the browser, in any version of JavaScript that you want to run, ES1, ES2, ES3. So it'll create, this kind of, you don't want to write this gibberish. Okay, you just want to write this clean code. So yeah, as you said, it will create JavaScript that is very complex. And if you haven't used any complex features of TypeScript, if it is plain JavaScript, it will simply create plain JavaScript. What happens if you write a CSS normal CSS in your SCSS file? Your just the CSS will be copied, right? You don't do anything fancy there. You don't find anything fancy there. Okay, you write some CSS in your CSS file. If you convert it, it will only give you some the same CSS data will be returned to your SCSS. You can try it. So if you use any explicit features of SCSS, or if you use a property that needs some backward compatibility with browsers, that will generate some complex information. Yeah, thanks for the question, Ravi.
Yeah, okay, Ganesh, thanks.
Yeah, Karthik, Kranti, Kumar, are you good?
Yeah.
Are you guys good?
Good.
Yeah. Kranti.
I don't understand how we diagnose if we get any error.
Yeah.
We make in the
So understand this. Now, if I'm actually, so how do we convert a TypeScript to JavaScript? I can say tsc space app.ts. See, so it is diagnosing for you and saying there is an error. Come here. Okay, treat this as a number. Now, if I did that, there is a second error. Okay, but you can. So this is not the feature. Maybe this is not the definite feature of TypeScript. This is the feature of TypeScript. This is where TypeScript is telling, and this highlighting everything is being done from some lint thing that I've installed here. Okay, if you write something in TypeScript, this is being highlighted here. Okay, this is something coming from an extension of TypeScript. ESLint plugin is doing this. But even though, so if I disable that ESLint plugin, if I reload, now I may not be able to see this. But if I type this, if I convert this, TypeScript will make sure that I have all the errors being logged in here. Okay.
I'm trying to follow along, and I made my TypeScript file, but I'm not seeing the app, the JavaScript file come up. I typed in the TSC app TS, and I see the errors on the terminal, but I don't see a JavaScript
So
file.
I have enabled for this session, I have enabled the logic, the configuration to create the types JavaScript file even if there are errors. So if I delete JavaScript, okay, for you, unless maybe the configuration is this, until unless the issues are fixed, you cannot generate a JavaScript file. So try to fix everything and convert that into JavaScript.
Okay.
And if you're still not able to do, I'll be able to help. Yeah. So I'm moving on to the complex stuff now, because you would see things going on. So let's take a break. I'll take another half an hour after the break. to go through with a certain we'll go through with this article, and I think that is more than enough. Okay, we'll try to understand this. I think we understood everything. Actually, we covered a lot of things. Okay, you sending it as a number. Yeah, I think from interfaces we learn interfaces, classes. How do we write classes? Okay, and writing that in the with classes. So I think interfaces and the classes are the ones. Annotations, actually, type annotations, compiling code. We know how to compile the code. Some tips and techniques around TypeScript, interfaces, classes, and running your web app. These three we'll see after the short break. So you can create a TS configuration file with TS hyphen hyphen init command that is going to create. So for now, it already exists and it is not converting it. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create all the files in the JS folder. Okay. But seems like there is an issue with this method. I think. Okay. I need to specify. So if you are enabling something, I have to enable a lot of other things here. Root directories, use root files. So if I'm so we need to learn about few things, and then if we try, it is going to give. But my luck is not with me now. So I need to run through all these configurations and do a correct configuration to put it. But this should be enough, like to say this should be enough to put things in JS folder. I'm just missing something. Specify a file that bundles all output into. Okay, I just want it to be loaded into app.js. That is in the JS file. That's what I did. There's something wrong with my configuration. Source map is equals to true. It is not configuring. Okay, now it is giving me errors. My God. Specify the module is generated. So there are some errors in this file. Okay. The problem is that VS Code doesn't have a permission to create a folder here. Okay, so it is actually not, I'm using AMD machine. So that means this module common.js, that is not working because that is not working along with this machine. So maybe sudo tsc. So it's a permission issue. Maybe I need to find this error and configure it. Use only AMD and system modules that are supported alongside of output file. Okay, let's not use output file. Let's only use output directory in that case then. Why do we make things complex? Okay. So I just wanted to give, finally. So it is now creating inside JavaScript folder. It took me time because number one, VS Code doesn't have a permission to create a folder That is the reason it was blocking, everything was blocking. So now I can say root directory, I can say source map is equals to true. Now if I uh, you know, only tsc command, tsc app.ts will not pick the configuration file, it will not do as per the configuration. Instead you need to say tsc, that will takes care about converting that. So if I remove this folder, delete permanently, app.js is being used. Where this is being used, I don't know. Maybe here. Permission denied. I know are the permissions have been denied. This is one hell of a problem with Macintosh. Okay. Oh my God. That's a problem with me. What do I have to do? So once I have given the permission, it's not allowing me to. Fail to delete this trash. If you want to permanently delete instead, yes, delete permanently. So since this is created with admin privileges, now it is not listening to me, but I can delete it. Oh my God. I should have opened this VS Code with a. So now if I remove this, God save me from this mess. Okay, now I removed everything in the app.js. Now if I say sudo.tsc, I'm getting back my JavaScript file and the source map file that I have asked from the configuration. So I've set the source map to true. I set the output directory to JS. And if there are any comments in this file, so I'm just trying to give you, so you can enable this and you see that the comments have been removed. Just a second. Okay, so now if there are any comments here with this configuration, I can remove comments. I can remove all the console logs that are kept there. I can change the root. So all these configurations you can enable, disable. Okay. So my problem was this VS Code doesn't have a permission to create a folder and file on the machine. So it was not properly loading. So that was the problem with my uh, code earlier. So if I close it, so the anyways, the thing that I wanted to communicate, put forth is that you can change the configuration and you can change the way that you want to create your TypeScript file to JavaScript. So since I created it, so I'm not saying it. Now you can say tsc -- watch. Now TypeScript is actually looking for all the changes that you make. Okay, now it is saying it can possibly null. So as HTML element. So now I treat it as an element. There is no error. So it is still giving me could not write JavaScript file because permission denied. I know I need to give permission. Rather, I will do what? I'll open How do I avoid this permission? Okay, just a second. Let me Google it for a while. Oh, no need. So I think I'm stuck with that option for now. So when I say sudo dot, so when I said this command, tsc watch, so now TypeScript is watching for all the changes that I do. See, as soon as I do some change, it is actually converting it. So it's really fraction of a second it is happening. But if I save it, so if I delete this, so it's trying to say that it cannot find the function called sum. If I put it back, no errors. So you can say tsc hyphen watch, okay, hyphen watch, and it will continuously keep converting the file. So if I remove everything from here and save it in the JavaScript, you will see empty. So now if I put back, if I go to JavaScript, it is actually going here and picking up the location output directory like this and putting the JavaScript file there. In the HTML, I can also look in the same direction, and that still works. Any questions so far? So I see 77. So my TypeScript is continuously looking for the changes I made in TypeScript, referring this configuration, and according to the configuration, it is generating me my JavaScript. So to generate this configuration file, tsc --init is the command to continuously watch the files. So you can hit the Control-C option and it will execute from. So you say tsc TypeScript watch. Once you said that, it will refer this configuration and start watching the files, TypeScript files, and convert them into app.ts file. Is it fine? Like, can we move from these topics? Any questions here? I have another 8 minutes to go over the rest of the things. So if you don't have any questions,
You don't need to put an extension in, right? Get it to make
Yeah.
your app JS. Besides, I mean, I did the npm TypeScript. It's still not like I'm still not seeing an app JavaScript come up, even though there's no errors anymore.
okay, did you actually, the file extension should be app.ts,
Yeah,
and
I
you
have
should
that.
okay, but so now let's get serious with TypeScript. Okay, you have seen this, right? While sending some parameters to function, okay, we always do not send this like this, right? We always send it like response. We say response, and this response might have some other data like this. So much data going to so many different. So how do we type them? Okay, so we use this format called, okay, so let me copy this, here. Okay, this is a syntax to create an interface. What is an interface? Interface is a group of certain types. Like say if you have a data, okay, let me go back to create an interface for you. Interface, you say keyword interface, movie. Okay, one movie element. What one movie element will have? Synopsis, title, image path, rating, words. Okay, let's not go with this predefined thing. So what if you are working in the last assignment, we did work with different movie database, and each movie, I am not I might be wrong, I might be not accurate, but I'm just I might be inaccurate to an extent, so I'm not saying. So one movie element, what will have, it might have a synopsis, like what is the plot is all about. Maybe I can say plot of the movie, and what is the title of the movie, what is the thumbnail path, maybe I should say thumb path. Okay, thumbnail path, what is the rating of that movie, and how many votes it got. Okay, so you need to define the interface. Okay, define interface for one particular object. Okay, so how can you do that? What is the plot format will be, guys?
String.
You will be saying certain things about the story. Basically it is string. What could be the title? It could basically a string. The path of that particular, if it is, even if it is a URL, it will still be a string. A rating can be a number, and a vote can be a number. Many of you actually used a method called show movie. Okay, I've seen so many of you writing show movie method, and they, in this method, many of you have actually rendered a movie on body. Okay, append child. So you did something like this and you appended nothing. So I need to create an element. Okay, maybe movie lm is equals to backtick syntax image. Maybe I'll not add image, but I'll add a paragraph. Span. So I need to send a movie information here, movie info, and movie info, sorry, so I should say function movie info, never used, so I'm going to use it. So it is giving me information on every step I go. So even so this is a title, so I will say title. So there's something wrong with my machine, so bear with me. I'll say dot inner HTML is equals to, I will just only add one element. So this is saying me cannot find the element movie element because cannot. So it is trying to access an element that is already exists. So before this time we haven't created. So I will say const. Now, so it is saying the movie is implicit as an any type. So this can get any parameter. No, I should say to the TypeScript, you will get a data in this format. See, no errors. So I'm saying for this function, for this object, you will receive data in this format. So now this is true. I can send the data. So if I call it like this and say I'm only using title there, so I'll say Dr. Strange 2. Maybe it's done. Love and Thunder. Now it is saying me argument type of string is not a assignable parameter type of movie. So I created a type of movie. So if I hover this, it is giving me exactly what I need. So now I'll convert it to title. Okay. See, the moment I say title, see, you need to send it as title. Even if I did so, it is saying title string is not assignable type of movie. So because you need to send plot thumb path, rating, and votes. It is saying me, see, plot, thumb path, rating, and votes. You need to send that. Even if you see, even if these two things are in two different files, it is giving me help. See, so if you declare an interface like this, and if you refer that for this function, I'm expecting that this data to be in this format. Then if I'm calling a function, it will tell me what is that I need to send. So you don't have to worry about, hey, what was this guy? You don't have to read through everything that this guy did it here, right? He might have used title, plot, and everything. So you don't have to worry about what he used in this function. You can only see that what is important. Maybe you think that vote is not really necessary to because I'm rendering it here. Okay, movie dot plot. So I'm not rendering it, guys, but bear with me. Plot and rating. I might use votes and I might not use votes. Okay, that's what I wanted to, or thumb path. But still expecting this from, this plot, thumb path, rating, and votes, that is not going to do me any. Why I see some crackling sound from my end? Is it from my end or is it from someone's end? Okay, I've muted everyone. Okay, so to observe if it is a thing from my end or okay. So now I'm sending plot also. Okay, it still says that thumb path, rating, and votes are missing. Oh no, I don't want to worry about. You can make these things optional by putting a question mark here. What I'm sending is only the plot and title. Plot and title. Plot and title are mandatory. Rating is not mandatory, so I don't want to use it. So if I want, I can use it. But if I'm not using it, I'll make this optional. See, no errors. So if I remove this, that is that expects the TypeScript expects that you pass that method that property while you are calling this method. If I keep that question mark, it won't expect you to send it. So this is like you must send these values to call this function. Okay, and if you put a question mark, you are saying that this is an optional parameter that you can send it to the show movie. So if you remove this, it will expect you to send the. So it is saying already thumb path is missing at the type. So now it is not saying so many things are missing. It is only saying thumb path is missing because that's the next thing that is. So to satisfy that, I can add the thumb path dot google.com/img 1mg emg.jpg. If I send that, no error. So that is what the interface looks like. Okay. Any questions on interface? Making it optional and making it required. So next time, I want you all to write things in TypeScript and never ever. So you can, if you don't want this typing to block you from this, the awkward way of doing it, the worst way of solving a problem is putting an any, something called any. Any means don't care. I don't care what you send. I just do my things here. I don't care what you want me to send me. I don't care to compare. And a TypeScript, you don't care what I'm sending this to function. I will send whatever I want and I will take care of rendering it here. So I'm taking the responsibility. Don't take care about any responsibility. Just take whatever that I send. That's it. It's a very rude way of solving a problem. But so let us say if you are sending an array of these items. So you're not only sending one element, but you are sending 10 movies to render there. So to do that, okay, you might want to do this. Movie npm dot for each. You might want to do this for each. You might want to write all the 10 movies. Okay, your goal is might be like this. But now you are sending an array of movie items. How do I refer that? You can simply say array. See, so you can now send 10 movies from. So let me create this. Movie data is equals to like this. Now this is an array of objects. Okay, now if you send this, okay, thumb path is still missing, but I'll make that thumb path is optional. Now everything is good. So if you are sending array of data, array of that objects, now you can put this one. Okay, just put this array extension. Or if you just sending object and you don't want to refer that, you can do like this. Okay, if you don't want to use an interface like this, you can copy everything like this. Okay, and you can put an object syntax and you can copy paste everything. This is also if you want to send one object. Okay, I'm just sending one object and I don't want to, this is not an array. If this is not an array, let me just comment. If I only want to send one object, you can also do this. You need not to have an interface there. You can just put an object and all the syntaxes inside. So all the typing inside, you can do this. But the better way of doing things is this. Okay, if you're only sending one object, you send, just say movie. So you can send one object. If you are sending an array of the same elements, you will say, you will put a thing like this and you'll do this. So now you will see, maybe if I open that, see, Love and Thunder, Strange, Doctor Strange. So I'm not returning a BR here. So if I return a BR, see, the same thing you did, buddy. So I'm just returning that title, but you might have returned image and everything, but I'm just, for the time being, I'm just returning this title only. So I'm still getting, so I'm just strongly typing my. So if I used thumbnail path, I'll make the thumbnail path as required. Any questions so far? I'll move on to the next topic if there are no questions. See, I might have skipped a few things, but that doesn't mean that so I'm just taking the short path. But if you want to go long path, see, you can now. So what I'm making is, I'm making you understand. If you go back to this documentation, I promise you, with the things that we are discussing in this session, you will be able to understand everything what that is written here. See, nothing is unfamiliar to you now. You know this is typing. You can use the typing there. So this, this. So you can say, okay, so I'm moving on if there are no questions. next topic is about, creating classes. So in the last example, we have, okay, when we learned about object oriented programming, we learned about this thing. Okay, class, student. Now, so let me create this from start body. So in the object oriented programming, we created a class. Okay, class. You can, in TypeScript also you can write a class student. It's the same syntax. Okay, now with TypeScript you can now say create a declare a variable here itself. Okay, so this is okay. Let's go with full name only. That's what we have actually learned there. Okay, now what do we see? Has no initializer, as not assigned in the constructor. So you can ignore this and say to TypeScript that say, if I put a exclamation mark, so this means is that this method is going to, this property is not going to be null at any given point of time. This is going to be something, not definitely null. Okay, so what it is saying, the property full name has no initializer and it has definitely assigned, not assigned in the constructor. That means it is, you are saying string, but this is an undefined property. Now it is an undefined property. You need to put a string inside. Okay, you need to put a string inside. That's what it is saying. So undefined is not is equal to string. When you create a method, when you create a variable and you are not assigning anything to it, that is undefined. So I cannot store undefined in a string. That's what it is saying. So I can simply say either it can be string and it can be undefined. So I'm saying both. It can be both. I'm just giving it either case. Okay, you can type it with a case also. You can say it will be string until the string is stored on this object. This will be a undefined. Either that will be this value or it will be a string. It will be either it will be an undefined or it will be a string. Now this is okay. Now the condition is satisfied for it. You're saying initially it can be undefined and later you can store a string. Okay, I'm satisfied. I have no issues. But if you say this, that all the time I will only store string in this, then it will kick me. Okay, I'll not use the word. Okay, it will kick me back because it is, you're saying it is a string, but it is now undefined if you have not assigned any value. So I'm saying, okay, not a problem. I will assign some value in this later, but for now, treat it as undefined. Now, each class should have a constructor for sure, not a thing that we can pass. It should have a constructor. So constructor, for constructor, to create some instances of that class, we need to, plug something, few things into it. And that's why we say first name. I'm not doing anything fancy. First name, last name, and it is saying, see, as soon as I said first name is declared but never read, and first life has an any type. So I should not put it any type. I should say string. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So here, if you could observe, TypeScript has this beautiful keyword called public and private. So what is that is, if you say public, this is a variable, something that you can access outside of method. So if you say private, okay, this is not something that you'll be able to access. Okay, so let me just do this. Middle initial, I haven't accepted it, not a problem. Okay, this is only I accepted it. So let me put it public because it is unable to access here. Okay, now I want to keep this private age, maybe private age number. So like this. So console, age. Let me create a person const is equals to student. Same thing I'm doing, new student. This new student is now expecting first name, last name, and age. So I'm sending Lakhu Kumar, and my age is maybe 89. Okay, this is an unknown word. That's what it is saying. I know it. JavaScript doesn't know these names, so it says me that. So if I log this, so now I'm able to log the entire object. That's what I said in the. So now if since I'm generating source map, everything is actually running in JavaScript, but I'm getting the reference of that code in TS because of the source map file I'm generating here. Okay. So now my age is being logged here. So now if you try it, because my age exists in this guy. Okay. Age 89 exists in the student component of Lakku Kumar. Lakku Kumar is a object that we generated. Okay. Now I'm able to access first name, last name, full name, but not age. So if I try to access the age, it should give me an error. This is not really something. Okay. So it is saying me that the property age is a private, only accessible within the class, but JavaScript is actually able to access that thing because I've enabled it to generate JavaScript no matter whatever the error. But if you strict it that if you don't want to generate that, if you set it the settings to don't generate JavaScript, if there is an error, it will not generate and you will not be able to access that age. But if it generates, JavaScript is JavaScript, it is going to access that no matter what. But you will see the private age property that is private and it is only accessible within the class of student. So I see this error already. Okay, but since I've enabled it to go ahead and just to log it, so there's no public private concept in JavaScript, so everything is public by default if it is on the constructor. So that is what you see here. So that is why you see here. But if in TypeScript, it will clearly tells that since you used a private property called property of private, we said it private, so it is only accessible within the class. You cannot access outside of thing. So if I want to avoid that error, I will say public and I still have no errors and I get, anyways you are getting before also. But thing is, I'm just looking for a property where it will block me from compiling even there is an error. So there should be a property that will allow compile on error. So if I set that to true, that it will not convert then. So TypeScript will not be converted to JavaScript and I will not be able to use it. I don't know. It's kind of finding a needle in a haystack. They are calling. Okay. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Kranti, for reminding me that. Okay. Public, private, we have covered. What else we need to cover? Interface we covered. Public, private we covered.